If you have ever heard a sharp tapping sound against your window in spring, you probably looked over and saw something strange. A cardinal on the sill, a robin on the ledge, a bluebird clinging to the frame, a small bird throwing itself at the glass again and again and again. Most people think the same thing. It must be confused. It must be trying to get inside. It must see the room behind the glass and not understand why it cannot enter. But that is not what is happening. The bird at your window is not trying to get into your house. It is not curious about your living room. It is not asking for food. And in most cases, it is not sick. It has found an enemy, a rival bird standing inside its territory, staring back with perfect timing, matching every movement, every threat display, every attack, and refusing to leave. That rival has no heartbeat, no nest, no mate, no body. It is a reflection. And to a territorial bird in breeding season, that reflection can become one of the most dangerous things in the entire yard. Because a real rival eventually does something. It retreats, it flies away, it submits, it loses, it wins. But the bird in the glass never does. It never backs down. It never gets tired. It never stops looking back. And for some birds, that creates a behavioral trap so powerful that they can spend hours a day attacking a bird that does not exist, burning energy they need to survive, ignoring food, ignoring danger, and in severe cases, neglecting the very nest they are trying to protect. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going into one of the strangest and most misunderstood backyard bird behaviors. Why birds attack windows, what they think they are seeing, why they sometimes cannot stop, what it can cost them, and what you should actually do if this starts happening at your house. Stay until the end, because the last thing we cover is the one mistake almost everyone makes when trying to stop it, and it is the reason the bird often comes back the next morning, even worse than before. Let's start with the glass. To you, a window is transparent. You see the room behind it, the curtains, the lamp, the wall, the shape of your own house. But to a bird outside, especially during certain hours of the day, that same window can become a mirror. If the outside world is brighter than the inside of your house, the glass reflects the yard back at the bird. Trees, sky, branches, open space, and sometimes the bird itself. This is why the behavior often starts suddenly. One morning, in March or April, the light hits the window at the right angle. The inside of the room is dark. The yard is bright. A male cardinal lands near the window and sees another male cardinal standing exactly where no rival should be. Inside his territory, near his mate, near his nest site. And instantly, his brain does not file this under reflection. It files it under intruder. That distinction matters. Because birds do not experience glass the way we do, they did not evolve with flat, invisible barriers. They evolved with water, shadows, branches, open air, and rivals. Their visual system is extraordinarily advanced, but it is not built to interpret a modern window as a human object. So when a territorial bird sees its own reflection, it is not making a silly mistake. It is responding correctly to the wrong world. During breeding season, many birds become intensely territorial. Cardinals, robins, mockingbirds, bluebirds, towhees, sparrows, and many others defend areas that contain food, nesting sites, mates, and future offspring. For a male cardinal, territory is not just space. It is reproductive survival. If another male enters and stays, that means competition. It could mean losing access to a mate. It could mean losing the nesting area. It could mean another male interfering with the entire breeding attempt. So the response is fast. First, the bird approaches. Then it postures. Then it sings or calls. Then it moves closer. Then it attacks. Against a real bird, this sequence works. One male displays. The other answers. They assess each other. One escalates, the other retreats. There is risk, but there is also resolution. The problem with a reflection is that it gives the most provocative answer possible every single time. The real bird leans forward. The reflection leans forward. The real bird flares its wings. The reflection flares its wings. The real bird strikes the glass. The reflection strikes back at the exact same instant. From the bird's perspective, this is not a mirror. This is a rival so aggressive that it never gives ground. And that is where the trap begins. A normal territorial encounter has an ending. A window fight does not. The bird attacks, and the enemy remains. It retreats to a branch, and the enemy remains. It comes back 10 minutes later, and the enemy is still there. It tries again the next morning, and the enemy has returned. This is why people report the same bird attacking the same window for days or even weeks. It is not because the bird is stupid. It is because every part of the situation tells the bird that the threat is unresolved. And unresolved threats are exactly what territorial animals are built to keep checking. Now let's talk about what that costs. A small bird lives on a narrow energy budget. Every hour matters. During breeding season, the day is already full of survival tasks: feeding, singing, defending territory, watching for predators, maintaining pair bonds, building or guarding a nest, and later, feeding nestlings. A male cardinal may make repeated trips to find food for himself and his mate. A robin may patrol a lawn for worms and insects. A bluebird may defend a nest box from competitors. These are not optional behaviors. They are the daily work that keeps a breeding attempt alive. But when a bird becomes locked onto a reflection, that schedule changes. The window becomes the center of the territory. Instead of patrolling the yard, it returns to the glass. Instead of feeding normally, it interrupts feeding to attack. Instead of responding to real birds, it spends energy on a phantom. Instead of conserving strength, it burns it against an enemy that cannot be defeated. Some homeowners describe birds attacking windows for hours in a day. Not continuously every second, but in repeated cycles. Strike, retreat, watch, strike again, move to another pane, attack the side mirror of a car, return to the original window, begin again. From the outside, it can look almost obsessive. But inside the bird's body, it is not obsession in the human sense. It is a hormonal and territorial feedback loop. Breeding season changes the brain and body of birds. Testosterone and other hormones influence song, aggression, mate guarding, and territorial defense. Stress hormones rise when a threat remains unresolved. The bird becomes more reactive, not less. And the reflection keeps feeding the reaction. The brain is looking for one signal. The intruder is gone. The window never gives that signal. That is why this behavior can become dangerous. Not because the bird wants to die. It does not. Birds do not understand self-destruction the way humans do. But a behavior can be self-destructive without being intentional. A bird can damage itself trying to solve a problem that the modern world created. The most obvious injuries are physical. Repeated pecking can wear or chip the beak. Birds can bruise the area around the face. They can damage feathers around the head and wings. If the bird is not just pecking, but actually launching into the glass, the risk becomes much worse: concussion, internal injury, broken bones, or death. And then there is the cost you cannot see: energy loss. A bird that spends hours attacking a window is not spending those hours feeding efficiently. It is not resting. It is not watching for predators with the same attention. It is not doing the invisible maintenance behaviors that keep it alive. For a bird weighing only a few dozen grams, that matters. A wasted hour is not just wasted time. It is burned calories, increased stress, and lost opportunity. If he becomes fixated on a window, the female may compensate for a while. But compensation has limits. If she has to leave the nest more often to feed herself, eggs may cool. If nestlings receive fewer feeding trips, they grow more slowly. If the adults are distracted, predators have more opportunity. That is the dark part of this. The bird thinks it is protecting its family, but the thing it is protecting them from is not real. And the time it spends fighting that unreal enemy can make the real nest more vulnerable. This is also why the behavior often peaks in spring and early summer. In winter, the same bird might ignore the same window. In spring, it attacks like the glass has personally invaded its life. The window did not change. The bird's internal state did. Its world narrowed into territory, mate, nest, rival, and your glass produced the perfect rival. Now here is the part that makes the behavior so difficult to stop. Many people try to solve it from inside the house. They close the curtains. They lower the blinds. They turn off a lamp. They tape something to the inside of the window. Sometimes that helps a little, but often it does almost nothing, because the reflection is on the outside surface of the glass. The bird is not reacting to what is inside your room. It is reacting to the outside world mirrored on the glass. If the window still reflects sky, trees, and the bird itself, the rival is still there. From the bird's perspective, you did not remove the enemy. You just made the enemy darker. That is the mistake almost everyone makes. To stop reflection attacks, you have to break up the reflection from the outside. Not inside, outside. External window screens can work. Temporary mesh can work. Non-reflective film on the outside can work. Soap patterns or tempera paint on the outside of the glass can work. Decals can help, but only if there are enough of them and they are spaced closely enough to break the mirror effect. One sticker in the corner of the window usually does not solve the problem. The bird is not afraid of the sticker. It is fighting the bird in the open reflective area beside it. For reflection attacks, the principle is similar. The goal is to make the other bird disappear. You can also cover the outside of the window temporarily during breeding season. Even a simple sheet, screen, or cardboard barrier placed outside can stop the reflection if it removes the mirror. And if the bird is attacking from a nearby perch, removing or blocking that exact perch can reduce the behavior. Sometimes the bird needs a launching point. Take away the launching point, and the pattern weakens. What you should not do is punish the bird. Do not bang on the window. Do not spray it with a hose. Do not throw things. Do not try to scare it every few minutes. That can increase stress and make the territory feel even more threatened. The correct solution is not to fight the bird. It is to remove the ghost. There are signs that the situation has become urgent. If the bird is bleeding, sitting fluffed and motionless, breathing with its beak open for long periods, or continuing for many days despite obvious exhaustion, you should contact a licensed wildlife rehabilitator or local bird rescue for guidance. Do not assume it will always stop on its own. And the difference may be whether the window continues to create a perfect enemy every morning. There is something unsettling about all of this because it changes the way your house looks. A window is one of the most ordinary objects in human life. But to a bird in breeding season, that same window can become an impossible biological problem. It creates a rival with no scent, a rival with no fatigue, a rival that cannot be chased away, a rival that returns every morning with the light. The bird is not trying to get in. It is trying to drive something out. And that something only exists because of the way our world reflects back into theirs. So the next time you hear tapping at the window, do not laugh it off as a confused bird. Look at the glass from outside. Look at what the bird sees. The tragedy is not that the bird is foolish. The tragedy is that its instincts are working exactly as they were designed to work in a world that did not have windows. A real rival would leave. A real fight would end. A real territory would become quiet again. But glass does not surrender. And unless you change the reflection, the bird may keep returning to the same place at the same hour to fight the same ghost. If this has ever happened at your house, tell me in the comments what species it was and how long it lasted. And if you solved it, tell people what worked. Because somewhere, someone watching this has a bird at their window right now, and they do not need to scare it away. They need to make the ghost disappear.